I think we are live. Uh-oh.
Nice.
Yay, Estella's back.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Estella.
We didn't do the surprise reveal. Wait. Pretend like they didn't see anything.
Pretend they didn't see anything.
Yeah. Oh.
You go, hey, Paul. So what's going on today?
Yeah, I don't know. I wish we had a guest. Because we had such a good guest last week. Man, it's gonna be tough for any guest coming up after Estella. That was a really good show.
I don't think anyone could be as attractive or smart and funny as Estella, but we can try. Hey, it's Nick Lambert.
Nick Lambert.
Oh, hey, everyone. Nick here.
Yeah, we didn't make it.
Close. If it was a scale of 1 to 10, I at least touched the bottom of that scale. So,
well, if you're not as good as Estella, we're just going to kick you right off the show.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I just will continue to sit in my home. I probably won't even change my seat. It's just been the most productive here.
So Nick Lambert, I introduced you on Twitter as Nick from the Wild, but really you're Nick from Instagram. Is that correct?
If you love really poorly edited videos that I put on Instagram, then yeah, that's me, Nick from Instagram.
Maybe since we're waiting on, we always do a little warm up while people come in. Maybe we can share some of your handiwork.
Oh, yes.
Maybe we can do your I like your Instagram one or your Autodesk one. Where was that?
Oh God, I think it's further down.
There we go. Here we go. All right, let's see. Let me let me switch over to here. This is some of Nick's work. I can't go full screen on Instagram.
Good morning. Nick here. Lambert from Instagram.
I'm just going to assume they can hear that.
Me too.
Right.
We never know. We never know if people can hear.
Not wanted desks. I'd like to introduce you to Autodesk. They make everything else.
Yeah.
Such as CAD,
Yeah.
BIM, more BIM.
I'm really
Are you proud?
glad you're forcing everyone to see this. Yeah.
So yeah, Autodesk. Makes all these things.
I don't realize
At the
how
same time. At the same time.
I know that it's shaky when I'm holding it because I never not hold it, but it's weird seeing it without audio and how shaky it is.
And then I get if we're gonna go down this rabbit hole. Oh, see, look at that. You're getting compliments. Look at that. Such good.
Oh my gosh! Thank you. Thanks, Estelle.
Let's do your most recent handiwork.
Okay. Good luck, everyone.
This is because you've been kind of locked up. You've been in quarantine.
Yep.
Oh, that's probably loud.
Nutrition. Never again.
Nice. I can't hear it, but
Push-ups. How do I get in here? I'm in a jungle.
Oh, it hurts. It's watching.
That's awesome. Now I'm gonna have to watch all of them.
It's fine. I'm fine. It's fine. I'm fine. So that's a quick little intro for Nick, and we're gonna talk a little bit more. But as usual, we're gonna jump right into some news. So, Nick, are you still there?
I'm here.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, let's talk. So I wanted to this one, we actually heard about last week, while Stella was on here. This is color space for Quest. And so I downloaded it today and played with it.
Is it? Did you like it? I mean, like,
yeah, it's really,
yeah,
I mean, it is what it is advertised. It's like you start off in a grayscale world, and you can, it's basically flood filling parts of the scene.
right.
And so you can, you get this whole palette and you can pick whatever you want. And it's very calming. It's very positive and fun. I haven't done any of the intricate stuff, but $10, I think it's worth it. It's really fun.
I'm in. I'll get that tonight. Yeah.
So that was my little share for the day. So
a quick question. Is it gamified? Is there a goal other than to chill out and color? I mean, like,
not that I've seen.
That's cool enough, thing as it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's got it looks like it has a decent amount of stuff to play around with, but I've only used it today, so I didn't see if there was any like deeper stuff to it.
And so it's kind of an animated 3D scene that you touch, and then flood fill, predetermined floods. Right?
Yeah, you get this palette in your left hand, and it's a couple different swatch selections, and then you've got the wand in your right hand, and it's got like a laser pointer on it. I think, and you can control the shading a little bit.
Is it automatically doing the gradients?
Yeah, well, it blends it with the grayscale that's kind of built into it. So like you can see this one part, the tree, like
Stella is saying that it was the goal was for hospital patients.
Oh, nice.
Is what she heard, which I think is kind of neat. Yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of So the only thing was when I first did it, I was accidentally coloring. You can color big chunks of the world. And so, like, I was on this terrain, and I wanted to make this one little plant green, and I accidentally made the entire background green. But so I didn't find an undo, but it's easy enough to just redo your color. But if you're really intense about picking your colors, then an undo would be nice. And it may have an undo. Like I said, I've only played with it today.
Right.
But I thought, with all the stuff going on, I mean, everybody this week on the VR side is talking about Half-Life. You guys have any opinions on that or thoughts on that? Half-Life Alyx.
I want to play it.
Really want to play it, yeah.
I don't really care that much. Like, I mean, I don't.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, like, if it's not on the Quest, it's too big of a pain for me to get into.
I mean, isn't it? But you just have to have the link cable, right?
Yeah, you got to have the link, so you can't play it on a Quest with in the Rift mode.
So the way I look at it is that it's the one thing, because I just loved Half-Life so much and all of the follow-ups to it, that it's the one thing that would make me spend $5,000 on a fully tricked out, well, $10,000 on a fully tricked out system with the index and all that stuff. And I mean, I those guys create environment and feeling and mood in such an amazing way. And I just remember, and maybe this is just me remembering back in the 90s, being so consumed by it. But I really, really want to play.
See, I never got that attached to the original. I was during that period. Like, when was that? Like, I played a lot of Counter-Strike, but like, I never got into Half-Life really. I was kind of playing. I mean, I played it.
I mean, I really loved it. But I'm really curious on the locomotion, like on all the movement, and how, because I was seeing just in the trailer, it looked really, really smooth. And I don't think I've seen that type of dynamic movement in a VR shooter game, other than like even though you're on rails. Are you on rails in this? I don't think you are.
I don't.
No,
I am.
no.
I'm gonna switch over to a video so we can all kind of look at it. But I don't. I did see. So my buddy, my Twitter buddy Steve Buller was complaining about like the locomotion around stairs is making him sick. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it is. It definitely is like a. We don't get too many AAA VR things, so it's certainly interesting from that perspective.
It looks so pretty.
Oh, there you go, Nick. Did you see that?
Oh, see, dude.
That was a little.
Oh, see, dude.
Little floating boots.
Teleporting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I really want to try it.
Yeah. Well, that was really kind of sad.
Right?
Right? Yeah. No, it's just a tranquilizer. He's okay. He's just sleeping.
Yeah, there you
just
go.
Leaving piles of sleeping bodies behind you.
Yes.
I mean, it's detailed for sure. You know, I mean, I definitely want to see it. I'm just like never gonna have time to fully play it all the way through. I don't think.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how compelling it is. It sounds like it's super compelling, but like the few games that I've played so far in the Quest have been kind of they haven't been they get boring really fast.
There's a lot of demos, little short things in there. Yeah. It's definitely the big news. I just didn't have a whole lot of it, so it's cool. And it sounds like we've got some people in the chat that have played it. Looks Todd Little says he's 8 hours in and still not done with it. So that's, I mean, for a $60, it's $60, right? So for a $60 game, you'd want it to last. I don't know, Nick. You play a lot of games these days.
Let's just be clear: it's a $10,060 game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
if you don't have the gear.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, 8 hours in, I don't know how far until you're done. So, yeah. I mean, if it's
but I mean, what's your expectation on a $60 game? 20 hours, 40 hours?
I would hope at least 20, but I mean, it just, I don't know. I think the expectations have changed. You know, is there a multiplayer element? Is there, if there's more to it? But I don't think there is. If it's just single player, then, I mean, I would hope 20.
And if it's linear, like it's not really that replayable, right? I mean, unless you want to go through it a few times.
Yeah. I mean, if you get to the end and you handshake Gordon Freeman, then worth it to me.
Worth $60.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh well, they could have saved a whole lot of development time for you then.
They should have just asked me. I would have told them what makes it worth
throttle the agent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Todd says he thinks it's around 10 to 15 hours of gameplay. Not bad.
That feels pretty good. I mean,
also
you're in a headset.
That's what I was going to say. You probably like our tolerance for 40, 60, 80 hour games is on a non-face computer is probably
right.
Fair. Yeah. When I was doing demos for the last time we were at the most recent Autodesk University, the longest I was in a headset was 4 hours, and that was nonstop, and that was a lot.
Yeah.
Without any real breaks. But
it's kind of a nice thing about the Quest. The battery would die on you before you get
forced breaks.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, last weekend I don't smoke weed that often, and last weekend I smoked some pot and got into Tilt Brush, and I was in it for like 3.5 hours, and I got out of it, and it took me a good hour and a half to like come back to the world.
Oh yeah. Where's your output from that? You should be sharing that.
I will.
All right. The big news that is unfolding really fast is this iPad LiDAR thing. Or did you have something else you wanted to add?
Yeah, just right before we go to that, I'm just going to notate here for posterity that Eric said that he can build me a VR system for $4,000. So hook me up, Eric.
It's on the internet. It can't be taken back.
Yeah.
Oh wait, here we go. We'll put it on the screen so it's fully committed.
There we go. I'm in. Let's talk, brother.
So iPad Pro LiDAR, we talked a little bit about it last week, but people are starting to get them. And in particular, our buddy Tim at Abound, who's been doing who has done some really impressive scene meshing just with the standard iOS cameras. He got one today, and this is the first. He's got 2 videos I want to share. This is just straight up. It's gonna be so hard with the compression to be able to see it, but this is him showing the quality of the meshing that's coming in. They are not giving access to like some of the lower level data feeds, but they are giving you a mesh, which is what most people care about. That one was probably not that easy to see, but then he is.
Well, just something real quick I wanted to point out on that one is that the meshing on that is decimated in the flat parts and tessellated in the fine point parts. So in that last one, you could actually see the 3D mesh, and so they're being really creative, or either he is or they are. Like right there, you've got
so just
nice decimation where it doesn't need it.
Let's back it up. Like what you mean is like where it's super flat here, and there's like big triangles. And then where it's like on top of these more detailed areas, like the number of triangles being used for any particular patch is called decimation, right? It's like
I mean, it depends on who you talk to. You talk to a mathematician, and decimation is actually the opposite of how we use it. But when we talk about decimating a mesh, we talk about making a mesh less dense. And so they're building a relatively efficient mesh from just kind of looking at the world and going, yeah, there's a plane here, and there's not a plane there, and this is a detail thing, and this is not detail. So they're doing a great job of making a relatively efficient mesh for the world, which is going to give you better performance and stuff.
Right. So like as opposed to why not just use this most dense patch like the chair? Why not use that same density on the floor? You don't really need it because the floor is flat, so you can cover a big flat plane with just a couple triangles. You don't really need all those extra triangles.
And the smarter it gets, the less dense even things like the side of that chair become, right?
And then this is, I think this is not showing decimation. So what he's showing here is the total mesh. Yeah, the total mesh is being built up as he pans around.
And look at the distance on this. I saw this this morning. It's just freaking amazing, and how fast it's going too.
So let's talk about why this is exciting for us, because there's a few different uses for this tech, right? There's several, but like, what gets you the most excited about this? Having like being able to build up a room that you're in dynamically, like Spencer. Like what would you want to do with that?
That is a good. The things that I want to do with that is I want to throw shadows on it. I want to throw lights on it. I want to bounce physics off of it. A lot of this can now. It might be large for physics volume, but I know that 60 AI is doing essentially the same thing, not as far. Look how far away that is. Like what's exciting for me is that they're pointing this thing around a relatively large space, and they're deriving really pretty tight mesh from far away, and that's that LiDAR thing again. LiDAR on a little tiny pancake. But it's fantastic, and we will use that. as developers of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you can
Absolutely.
use it for if you have a digital representation of the real world, you can have virtual characters interact with it. You can anchor virtual content to it. Like
Right.
to put and we didn't really get into Nick's profession, but Nick works at the Wild, where they work with a lot of interior designers and architects, and the ability to anchor mocked up things or virtual content to a physical space is something everybody wants to do. And then there's the more artistic things like Spencer's talking about. You can use this to cast especially on screen-based AR, where we're controlling the rendering of everything. You can actually throw light and shadows onto real world. So like, for example, in this little frozen part, there's a bench and a table. If a virtual little character flew over that, it'd be really cool if their shadow projected down on the tabletop and then, swam down the ledge and continued on to the ground. That's what makes stuff look super real. And
the other thing is occlusion too. As that character. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm getting excited. So you can use this also for occlusion. So you can hide a character behind the table, which is this is one part of the holy grail of augmented reality in the in our current scene. We've been needing to, like we talked about a couple episodes ago, put a cube on. Look how far away that is! Oh my god! I'm like, whew. The whole put a cube on a table and knock it off with your hand, like that one little thing right there. Put a cube on a table. Okay, well they got to know where the table is, and it's got to throw a shadow on the table. And knock it off with your hand. So it has to know where the table ends. And it has to know where your hand is. And it has to know where the floor is. Like there's all of these things that are super, super important to all of this stuff working that can be derived by putting a cube on a table and knocking it off with your hand. So yeah, that's amazing. Oh god.
Yeah, and go ahead, Nick.
The occlusion stuff is really interesting because I'm curious how good it will be with like live human walking through that space as well, because for some of the people that we work with, like at the Wild, some of the retail designers and like merchandising, being able to walk with an iPad and then have someone be able to walk behind like a shelf, something that simple, is extremely important. And it's hard to do that right now with kind of the stuff we're working with, but we've been working towards that, and just the ability to interact. What I'd be really curious about is if a scanned item would be able to be moved and it would follow. So like if you either of you might know about this. So if you scan this and let's say it's like a shoe, and it scanned the whole thing, would I be able to grab that shoe in real life while someone's watching me through the iPad, and would that image follow like the scanned portion of it, or would it be locked?
The meshing in like HoloLens and in Magic Leap will I think it's like on a 15-second or maybe a 3-second kind of refresh. It'll notice that something in the environment has changed, and it'll slowly, like there's a shoe, and it'll go, ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, it'll kind of
melt.
It'll melt away over time if it keeps refreshing. But I think
I don't think you're gonna. Yeah, you're not gonna get this stuff at 60 frames a second. It's not. You're not gonna get the environment mesh.
Well, but you could.
Well, no, that would be great.
You could capture the. You could capture the. You could grab the mesh as an asset and play with it there. Your question's interesting because I think a lot of what this is focused on right now is environmental. So like the other part of it I was going to show, and I didn't want to forget Estella's question was that the polys were more dense under the chair with the shadows. Does that mean LiDAR has challenges with lighting? And actually, no, the opposite is true. LiDAR, if they're using infrared light, it is less prone to lighting problems, but you still get I call it shadowing, Spencer. I don't know what you call, like, if you think about, I have a little light emitter and I'm emitting IR light out into the scene, and it's like a flashlight, and then I've got this big object in the way. There's no way that light's going to hit the object behind it, and so you get these shadowing effects where you don't have any geometry. So like in these examples, like if somebody were standing in front of one of these walls, there'd be a person-shaped hole at the wall where you wouldn't get it. Did you switch your camera, Spencer?
I did. I was gonna try to use my flashlight on the wall and just kind of demonstrate that. But yeah, it's if you have a flashlight in your hand and your hand here, and behind your hand is that wall, and I throw my shadow on the wall. That's the same thing that's happening when you are losing. When you're basically shadowing that wall from the infrared light that's coming out. And so
that's why you gotta walk around.
Right. That's why you have to do this like that to get the whole wall. So yeah, I think the reason why things are more dense underneath could be because of reflections. I'm not sure. I would need to look at each specific thing.
I think it's because if the chair is shadowing the IR below it, the sensor can see the ground up until below the chair, and because you haven't yet moved down there to let it get a look under the chair, I think that's when it'll start going really dense because it looks like an edge, but it's like a soft edge.
Right.
So probably what would happen is, if you moved enough around the chair, I know this is true with HoloLens and Magic Leap, if you turn on the meshing, like to visualize it, when you walk around, it'll eventually resolve it. And so it would say, oh, wait, there's actually a floor under that chair. And then it would probably turn that into a much less dense mesh.
I've noticed that with this thing too, is that when I first sweep across an area that's relatively complex, that it'll make it really, really, really dense. First it'll be nothing, and then it'll go all in and try to make something, and it'll completely screw it up and won't do it right. But then if I kind of slowly massage it a little bit, it's kind of like you're smoothing out the blanket tops, you know. Yeah. it's an interesting, yeah. But yes, what you're saying I think is correct.
So this is just one more thing to show. This is basically the same demo app that I think Tim was showing earlier. This must be the app Apple provides for you to play with this stuff. So the other thing they're doing is they're classifying the geometry, and if they can recognize what that geometry belongs to, they'll classify it. So in this case, it's showing the wall, ceiling. It knows that that's a door. It knows that that's the floor, and if it doesn't know, it'll just say, I don't know what it is. But this is interesting because now you have some semantic knowledge of the room you're in, and you can actually work with that. You can do things with that. You can say, oh, this is a door, so maybe I won't put any content here, or maybe this is back what we were talking to a few episodes ago with fragments, and like having a character walk through a door and sit on a couch, and having a wall and knowing, and here's they've got the segmentation labels interacting with the geometry, which is fun. So yeah, I don't.
So Nick, this could also fix Nick's question, which was, can I pick up that shoe and have it kind of like be a shoe with the geometry around it? They could then use the shoe as a tennis ball paddle or something like that. And so if you had that semantic knowledge of the shoe, the type of shoe, you could also have in your backpack a model of that shoe with a collision volume on it. And then you could swap that shoe out when you pick it up. You could swap it out for the semantic model and then use that as your, ping pong paddle or whatever. Yeah. So, that's kind of the way that could go.
You could also put a hole in if you want to you wouldn't want to put a hole in the door because the door might open. So what was the HoloLens, the RoboRaid or something like that?
Yes.
So it was like you could
bust through the walls.
Yeah, you would want to do that through the door, because if somebody opens the door, it's going to break the illusion of the integration of the scene. But if you find all the walls and you put holes in the walls, then it just feels a little better. The Dr. G game did a really great job of that too. It looked for big, flat, empty planes to open portals, which it just sucks when it does stuff like that over a window or like things that don't look right. I should share that video of me playing the Magic Leap little car racer in my basement, because it's really funny.
Do you have the one where I was landing rockets on you and making them explode?
I haven't pulled that off yet. I haven't pulled that off the device yet. But yeah, I've got these.
Paul's sitting there and he's like super, like working on this project.
I was doing real work.
Serious. He's doing real work, and I'm sitting there fucking around with this, spaceship, and I'm landing it on him and exploding it and stuff. And it's high entertainment.
But it's interesting.
Sounds like the those J.J. Abrams app things that he had. Like, what was there was something that they put out years ago, just like overlay.
Oh my god!
Video
yeah.
Effects. I think I probably have. It was like action movie or something. It
yeah,
just sounds
Paul,
like.
Paul,
yeah.
Do you have my didgeridoo video?
Oh man, I'd have to dig that up. Yeah, I forgot Spencer was playing with that. Yeah, Spencer blew up a busker on the street using that app a long time ago. Yeah, I just realized I was gonna say. So my basement, I have my office, and laundry room and basement. We have these carpet squares, all these different colors, and I have these black carpet squares, and it like they're in the middle of all these crazy colors is these solid black rectangles, and it's really funny because the Magic Leap meshing picks up those as just empty holes in the floor. So when I drive a little car or on the ground mesh that it builds up, if I drive over the black square, the car disappears down the hole. And I was going to say LiDAR should fix that, because it should be able to bounce at least infrared off. But the Magic Leap's using infrared for meshing.
Using IR, but LiDAR is not infrared; it's laser.
But is it in the infrared wavelength?
It's collimated light, so it's and I'm sure someone's going to say I'm wrong here, but as I understand
Josh is not watching.
Yeah, right. Hello, Josh. As I understand it, it's collimated light, so it's doing time of flight with a laser, and so that is a much more accurate and fast and long distance way of judging where a surface is. What we called it when I was working on freaking tape drive backup systems back in the day was laser interferometry, or laser interferometry. Was it reflectometry? I forget, but it was basically what the wavelength of the laser is, and what its speed through the world is, and so you can judge the return from the output, and you can figure out how far away that thing is.
What was happening in that first video then? Because I'm curious that you were showing with the LiDAR in the living room. Because then is the coloring just based on proximity? Because I was wondering why the human was red.
Which one was there?
That
one, yeah. So if you look here,
right towards the end here. Let's see. Let me bring this up. Well, so the other part of it is,
I think the coloring, I think, is distance.
Yeah, red is up close.
Okay.
Maybe, but that would mean you're only standing in one spot for that color, or does the color shift as you move around?
It does look like it's...
Yeah, it's based off distance.
It does look like it's proximity. Yeah, okay.
It's using...
I was like, oh, shit, they actually... Can they read our heart rates?
Spencer, they're using Roy G. Biv.
Nice.
Do you remember that? We when Spencer and I were working at Magic Leap in the early days, and we were still kind of being stealthy. We were hanging out at a bar one night in Florida, and we were drinking, and this guy was like, "What do you guys do?" And we're once in a while you tell them you tell people what you're working on, just to kind of, because it's fun to do, and you think it's pretty low risk. So we're telling this guy about what we're doing with glasses and all this stuff, and he goes, "Is it like Roy G. Biv?" And Spencer's like, what are you talking about? Who's Roy? And I didn't know what he was talking about. And he just kept saying it over and over, like Roy G. Biv. And we're like, what? We really don't know what you're talking about. And then we finally figured it out. That's the shorthand to remember the colors of the rainbow. Have you ever heard that? So it's red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet.
Oh, indigo, violet, right.
Roy G. Biv. That's how you remember the ordering of a standard rainbow spectrum. But he was just saying Roy G. He wouldn't explain it, and so we're just like, I don't know what you're talking about. And they're like, oh, a rainbow. Oh my god.
Roy G. Biv.
Yep, red, orange,
Biv,
yellow, blue.
Man, I want to meet that guy.
Yeah. No, you don't. He wasn't that great.
Yeah.
No, I want to meet Roy.
Oh, Roy. Yeah, and I still don't. Once we figured that out, we still didn't know why it had anything to do with what we were telling him. But anyway, that's a little side story.
Yeah.
So we're more than halfway through. It's time to talk about Nick Lambert.
I would like to actually ask Nick some questions, or do you want to have an exhaustive dissertation from Nick about like who he is in the world and what his loves are, or should I just start asking him questions?
Well, let's let Nick give some background. Give us some background.
Hey, Nick, who are you? Where are you from? What's up?
Yeah, my name is Nick Lambert. I'm from Portland, Oregon. My resume is very random. It's a lot of different things, but I met Paul. 5 years ago now. Maybe
2016.
Oh boy, 4 years ago. Okay. At Oregon Storyboard, and it was a nonprofit, and we were working with the HoloLens at that time, and we started out as like a startup accelerator, and then we got this cool opportunity to work with Microsoft and be one of these first organizations to kind of build something with the HoloLens. So what we ended up doing was creating a curriculum for the local community colleges to use the HoloLens in their automotive courses. And so we ended up designing and building out this whole automatic transmission from a car, and we turned it into a one-to-one scale hologram that you could use with multiple HoloLenses. And we kind of built using different sections of it to go along with the whole curriculum on how to learn the inner workings of a transmission. And we spent about a year doing that. And I met Paul during that time, and then also met Spencer shortly after that. I think you were
met
visiting.
me when I came up and we talked about, wasn't there some kind of volumetric video thing that you worked on? Was that you?
Oh,
that was probably Thomas.
I think that was Thomas Wester. Yeah.
But he was working. So Oregon Storyboard was really ahead of its time. I mean, we're talking about like 2016, and
right.
It had tons of VR headsets, bunch of HoloLens. It was kind of an open community space. They were mentoring companies through there. So Oregon Storyboard went through a couple different evolutions, as I understand it. But then when they really latched on to the VR and AR part of it, and that's the part Nick's talking about. But it was, so when you came to town, I was like, you got to come see this place. It's like a little co-working space where people are focused on all this stuff we like. And so, and Nick was there every day helping to run the space. So that was kind of how you guys probably met.
That's right.
Yeah, I got a lot of, I'm not a coder by any means. Just want to put that out there real quick. But it was a lot of really awesome kind of hands-on experience that I got, and especially where I ended up having to learn as many of the quirks as I could about each headset, because I was demoing it to everybody. And so I had to act at least somewhat knowledgeable about these things, and got to understand, like, how do you put someone who's never put a headset on, how do you get them to understand how to use these things? And that was a skill that I am happy that I got a chance to learn. And
so, you know what?
fun.
I have a question about that, Nick. How do you do that? Because this is something that, both in AR, more I think for us in AR than in VR, but like both in AR and VR, like what's your methodology for getting someone who's kind of brand newbie into that experience in a way that they can that they can appreciate it in the way that you were intending for them to appreciate it? And I just real quick want to say that, like, when we did the freshwater trust thing, there was a whole line of kind of stations of experience around it. And you were supposed to look at this one and then go to the next one. And a lot of the people, without being told what to do, would just like follow the helicopter around or just go look at the cows, and they're like, oh, wow, there's tiny cows, So what's your, like, I found that frustrating myself. And I also found that I was frustrated with myself because we didn't make the UI correct to kind of lead them into it.
Well, we didn't have time to do user testing where
we didn't have any time.
But I bet Nick's going to say tiny cows is a secret though, but go ahead.
Yeah. I
chubby.
know nothing about tiny cows.
Tiny chubby
but
cows.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's always the biggest struggle with that is to understand that I am very familiar with how these work. And so, like, trying to remove myself from that point of view really just comes down to setting expectations before they put it on. And so I always try and tell them, like, what they're going to see, what they're going to experience before I put it on them. And then if it's VR, letting them know that, like, I'm going to be right there. I'm going to make sure they don't run into walls. And then me having run through it enough times to know how to walk them through the order of everything they're seeing. So I would get familiar enough with all the things that I was demoing to where I could sort of close my eyes and imagine where they were at within the things, so that I could sort of be a Sherpa for them. It's crazy because now it's way easier.
Nick Lambert, digital Sherpa.
Virtual,
yes, exactly.
Virtual Sherpa.
I have the luxury of not having to imagine it anymore where I work with the wild, because I can actually be in there with them. So, like, they can have a headset on, and then I can have a headset on, and I can actually go in and, like, show them everything.
So
and
I
that's
want to back that up with something that happened with me when I met you the second time, which was up at the top of one of the big buildings, the big pink building, I think. And you guys were showing, and you put me in a VR headset, and I'm standing there looking at an architectural model, and it was cool. And then I hear this woman's voice, like right here, right next to me. And I kind of wanted to go into audio needs in VR and AR from this, if we could, if you were interested, because that was such an exceptional experience, because there was this woman's voice, and it was, maybe too close, right? Like, it was a little bit like, whoa, wait, that's a very familiar distance that you are at right now. And I turned around, and she wasn't. She was, at a normal kind of VR distance. She was, she was definitely within arm's reach, but she wasn't, like, right up in my face. But it was this really interesting, and she's like, oh, hi, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And we started talking. And then you told me that she was, across the river over at the Wild while we were doing this. And it really kind of, like, solidified for me this whole concept of having human interactions in VR that I'd never really gotten before. And what did it was the audio. The person there was kind of fun and stuff, but that whole kind of like she was in this ear, and I really like heard her very clearly, and so what have you? What are your thoughts on audio in augmented reality and in virtual reality?
Yeah, well, audio covers so many different aspects of all these things. Is like for games, obviously, audio is super important.
What you've done
for an immersive. Yes.
Can we talk about your audio background?
Yes. Yeah.
All aspects of it.
Go for it, or I could whatever you want.
No. Go ahead.
I played in a few different bands over the years. And I also, when we were done doing those bands, I had learned enough of recording and that kind of stuff during those times that the old lead singer and I, we started our own little scoring agency, which did fine. And we did some music for commercials and some games. And we just decided one day, let's just start our own game company. And so we can just do music and sounds for games all the time. And so we tricked a bunch of my family members, my brother and my cousins, to starting this company with me. And we made a few mobile games, and I really got to learn kind of the importance of sound and music within these types of experiences. And those were fairly controlled, and it was like all on a phone and that kind of thing. But jumping from that into VR and having these 3D environments that you're actually inside of, audio is pretty powerful. Where I work now, there was an earlier version of this company. It was called Wild Space. And Gabe was actually doing physical build outs of these places, and it was like a theater stage, and we had these physical doors, and we had like heaters and all these different things, and we had the whole physical experience there. And you'd put a headset on, and it was full body tracking, and it was crazy. And you'd walk through, and you'd reach out, touch a door, and it was a real physical door. And that in itself was huge. But then when I came in after that and started adding sound and this like ambient mood to the whole thing, it really changed it. We put some subwoofers under the floor, and I had these low rumble tones for when like a car would go by and like all this stuff. And it is insane how much of a difference sound does. And that's not like trying to toot my own horn on like, oh man, I made that thing.
No, I completely agree.
It's just in general, it's such a huge difference.
And the lament, the industry lament, is that audio is so last on the freaking schedule for so many of these projects that people work on. The audio is not taken as seriously as it needs to. And I want to make sure that the projects that we work on have a really good audio component to it. And it's like, I think it's as important as any of the other aspects of a piece, And audio is just as important as the visual, as the coding. So anyway, props to the audio guys.
What's your recommended XR audio experience right now? Like, is there anything that you've really noticed because it is such a it's always cut out of like it's never budgeted for, it always gets brought in at the last minute, so like anybody that does any decent audio production usually gets it stands out. It's really interesting. I feel like VR audio it gets oversaturated, because I think it is that type of thing. I think it's just like it's the end of the production cycle choice, and we just got to throw things in there. We're not going to think about mixing or anything. It's just going to go in. I do like the audio in Boneworks. It's actually pretty good.
I don't want to say I love Boneworks, just in general, but if you just really sit there and like listen to it, it's actually really good. The audio is fairly well done. I would not count Beat Saber as something that where I'm like, the audio is great in that, because it's just an audio game.
Right.
Songs on, but
when we were working at Magic Leap on some stuff, and we were playing with spatialized audio, right? So just so everybody knows, spatialized audio is like, instead of something sounding like it's to the left, just the left or right of you, you actually get a sense of how far away it is and if it's above or below you. So you get a full kind of 6-degree indicator of where the sound, like we'd get in the real world. And I think the earliest demo, well, I think I've talked about this on the show before, but we did 2 really compelling audio demos. One was we would show you a little hovering, little flying creature, which this.
Oh God! Right.
That video's.
That was terrifying, actually.
And if you leaned in and listened, it had little whizzing and little razor blade sounds, because it was made as a little metal looking thing. And if you
so the audio guys gave us the sound of this joint moving, and then the sound of the wings doing this, and the sound of this thing going, and
we'd put one in front of the viewer. And then we would randomly spawn one behind them, random height, random distance, but it would always be behind them. And we'd tell them to find the other thing. And so they'd be looking at this little guy flying in front of them. And then they would, every time, no matter where it was, would just immediately zero in on it, like based off the audio. And then the other one was they had done they'd taken the multi-track of a Beatles song. And each track was a little abstract little orb thing in a line. And so you could actually walk, and it was separated out enough to where if you walked up and put your ear, like, oh, that's the drums, or oh, that's the guitar. And you could almost isolate the track by walking up close enough to the thing. And I think ultimately that evolved into what became Tonandi for the Sigur Rós thing that actually shipped. But
oh wow!
Yeah, props to Magic Leap for that. It was always a priority to have spatialized audio. We always had an audio team. They were always working with the hardware people. Yeah.
Dave Shumway and Anastasia.
I feel like it's had to become a like very purposeful shift to use spatialized audio, because, I mean, if we think about just like video games in general, everything is visual. So like if you're getting hit by something over here, the indicators on your screen is going to light up a little bit differently. Like you're going to get a visual indicator of where something is coming from. And if you remove that, you feel extremely lost. Like you can't quite, and it's funny because with VR, and especially, the Quest, I think it has really great sound. Like I actually am really impressed.
Oh my God.
No headphones or anything?
How far away it is?
Yeah. It's very impressive. But I would argue you don't need any visual indicators with that, because the sound is so like on point, and it's a lot of these, and Boneworks is one of them. Like it's done tactfully in a way where when a sound you need to hear is being played, other things sort of duck a little bit. And there's like less of a peaking of everything. And so I can always appreciate when
Nick, what's
like,
ducking?
Real time. Ducking. So classic use in a movie. If there's dialogue going and you have music, you want to duck the music underneath the dialogue. And then when they're done talking, it ducks back up. So
it's just
if you're ducking below that, it's whatever.
Well, because we describe our stuff and
it's good. I in this whole conversation, it would be crazy not to mention the Bose frames. I don't know if either of you got a chance to try them, but They're the Bose sunglasses that have no visual display at all, and it's got near ear drivers that let you and it does spatialized audio, and it has some sense of tracking, and it pairs to your phone. And they actually, when they first came out with them, I think unfortunately not too long ago they sunset the effort, but when it first came out, there was a couple games or experiences you could play which were audio only, and it was really cool because you could walk through a room and kind of interact with this experience, but there was no visual and there was no input at all except you walking around, which is kind of an interesting set of constraints to work with, and it was powerful.
It's sounds really good. I used mine at our local Best Buy. But I just saw a comment from Nordic about unless you're hard of hearing. Yes, I don't want to like ignore that side of the human race.
What?
Because in that,
yeah, Spencer's legitimate hard of hearing.
And I think even if you can hear a little bit, smart, tactful mixing of specific sounds can go a long way. And obviously you need the visuals if you are unable to hear. And those shouldn't be ignored.
Right.
But I was just making a point that the audio is so good on the VR stuff. If you're able to hear it well, then I would say you wouldn't need it. But yes.
Right.
Also,
well, no.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I that word, I do not think it means what you think it means. The visuals are enhanced by the audio, and the audio is enhanced by the visuals. Those two things go hand in hand. When I am here in my office and I take my back scratcher and I go like this, I have a visual of this happening.
No, stop.
I know, it's
Stop.
not good. Sounds like but it's like we expect that, and we expect it to be happening at the right time too. Like if you have this with no ding, right, then it becomes less, less believable. You are suspending belief or disbelief. Or not suspending. I don't know.
I wanted to talk about your current job. So I don't know what we can show. Like, what do you recommend we show? I mean, we can go to the website.
You just the website works.
Okay.
This is the program that I was talking about that I was in, and that Nick put me in with the lady next to me saying hi.
That was Autumn. Yes, she was amazing. I mean, it's really interesting right now because our biggest thing that we kind of talk about the most is, remote collaboration. And with the world as it is right now, we're getting a lot of interest in this potential. And so it's been really cool because kind of our biggest use case has been architecture or retail design and that type of thing. But we've been getting so many new potential use case opportunities with people that wouldn't normally be thinking about this. And we have one company that I talked to, and there's me. And they just want to use it just for a meeting with their team. And so I kind of showed them how you can actually build a meeting room, all these different, are you finding me?
Well, I think the most interesting thing about the Wild, I mean, when I first met Gabe at the Wild, they were really trying really hard to stream point clouds of actual people from one to another. And I think they got it working to some degree with connects and stuff. But ultimately ditched it probably for all the right reasons to this more stylized kind of horizontal line avatar. But to me, I think the thing that stands out to a lot of people when they experience the wild is you get everyone's natural movements because you're tracking their head and their hands, so you can actually see. It feels like you're interacting with real people, right?
Yeah. We've actually transitioned to all of our internal meetings are now in the wild, which has been great because it's really forcing us to, for lack of a better term, eat our own dog food. That's sales speak right there.
Nice,
classic phrase.
Nice.
Nice. Well done.
Well, there's really fun stuff too. Well, I mean, it's not only fun, but it's actually useful. Like this last of kind of the promo video, this shifting of scale is really interesting because like you've got this little avatar Adam here, and then you've got Misha here is like the size of a building. And then we keep going, and then you realize, there's not a name on that one.
That's Nick.
We'll just say it's Nick is the biggest one.
Yeah, it was me. I was moving that sun.
Nice.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of interesting stuff there with multi-user collaboration, but also playing at different scales and all those things.
Yeah, the coolest thing that I did a couple weeks ago before we were all forced to be at home was we have the AR and VR stuff combined. And so it was really fun to go to a construction site, place the model with the iPad of the floor we were on, lock it, and then have them walk around using the iPad. And then at the same time, I had a Quest there. And I connected just to my phone hotspot. I went into that model and also lined it up for the physical space. And I was walking around with a Quest on in the space. They could see me on the iPad, and I could see their iPad in the space. And I walked right up. I scared one of them because I walked really fast up to a pillar. I did it also with fear. Because I was pretty sure, but I wanted to show confidence, and I walked straight up to this pillar, and it was just maybe 3 inches closer to me than what it was, and luckily I had my hand out, and I was like, "Oh yeah, it's right here," but it was pretty much right there, and it was really crazy because I could have walked through that whole floor with all their designs laid out.
Yeah.
Using that model, and that's my favorite moment that involved a lot of our updates that we've had in the last few months.
Okay, so now we have kind of a connection between the beginning of the show and now, which is that the LiDAR scanner on the iPad, also then maybe a LiDAR scanner on the next rev of the Quest or whatever, like having the ability to not be 3 inches off, to be super confident in your technology and walk around in that space. You don't have to kind of like set it up and like tweak it so it's exactly right and kind of look at the, it's like right. You're like, you actually can just know it's there, and you can have your origin correct, and it'll be there. That'll allow us to be in real environments, virtually with other people, in a really kind of fast and easy and super compelling way. I'm freaking like, I got shivers.
I don't. So we've shown this before, but there was actually an update last week of the Greg Madison's apartment in VR. Have you seen this, Nick? I'll share it.
Oh yeah.
So we showed an early thing of this, and we kind of picked it apart in a good way. So he's since updated it even more. So I'll try to make it where you can see it. So what he did was he rebuilt his real apartment completely in VR, and then he registered it to the real world. So on the right hand side of this video is the real world, and on the left hand side of the video is the in-game or in-experience footage, and he's since updated it. And so like he's literally moving his table around, and then he's like So just keep in mind the right-hand side of the screen is his real world.
That's cool.
And he even like built the building across the street. So we had a whole conversation about how he registered this to his environment. He's actually going to share. He said he was going to share it, and you can load it through SideQuest. And I don't know how good that would do if you don't actually live in his apartment.
Right.
But maybe he's got some other stuff to share.
He was like, "Yeah, I'm going to share this, and you can SideQuest." And it's like, but can I come to your house? I mean,
the trust you have to have in that digital recreation is a lot, though.
Oh yeah.
You know what? Actually, Nick, I'll tell you. Shawneen, actually, my GF, she got me thinking about how to use the Quest to build a completely unrealistic safety boundary. She was like, "Well, why can't you just walk around the whole?" I was like, "I don't know. I thought you were just supposed to go in a little square." And so then I
when you set up the Guardian.
Oh yeah.
I set up the Guardian all around the freaking house, and suddenly I have this huge spots that I can walk around in. And what I did was I walked around, touching, like I had the controller. You know, this is not a Quest controller, but I had the controller and my finger, and I just touched every surface and started painting in Tilt Brush. Right?
Is that an Odyssey controller?
No, it's maybe.
Yeah, it is.
Oh boy! Oh
This
boy!
is
Get that out of
What?
here.
Well, I had one before you did, pal. Anyway. So,
the
but
VR
what I did
snobbery.
was I know, right? But I have nothing else. Yeah. But so I walked around and I made all the surfaces. And what I found after kind of like walking around and doing that, you can only do it once because you can't re-register it. So like while in Tilt Brush, I could sit down on the couch and I could, you know, I was able to recreate my environment relatively realistically by just touching things. And I like that. I want more of that, you know, like.
Just don't touch too many things.
Yeah. Or people.
Or people.
Or your face.
Or your face. That's right.
Stop it.
That's right. I mean, we're over time, but we can keep talking if there's anything you want to plug. I mean, Lambert Tropolis. Obviously,
I got it. I just hold on 1 second. I got to say this.
Like and subscribe. Is that what you're going to say to our YouTube channel? Because that's what I was going to say.
Oh God!
You guys.
I wasn't going to give him any.
No,
Nick.
Daylight.
Very modestly explained his musical background. His little band he was in was a touring band with an actual record, multiple record deals. But that's okay. We'll just gloss over it. We'll just not talk about it. We can't hear it. We can't hear whatever. I can't hear what you're doing.
If you go to any of those social media things with my name, I mention them on there.
Are you Lambert
go
Tropolis on everything?
Go on Spotify right now and go look for Northern Abbey Ceremonies. Okay, it is the chill out album of the year.
Of the year.
Oh boy! Oh boy!
Wow.
No, that's my solo stuff, not the band that I did. But yes,
No,
thank you, Spencer.
This is Nick's solo stuff is rad. I listen to it a lot, actually, dude. I do.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming on the show very last minute. We kind of asked you today, and you showed up.
Yeah,
I don't know what we would have
No
talked
worries.
about otherwise.
So I just want to real quick just say
talking about audio.
Yeah.
I just real quick. Okay, sure, Nick. Okay,
Whatever, Nick.
I just want to say that I had planned on coming out of a sauna at the beginning of this show, and we were going to do this whole kind of gag start, and then Nick was going to do a gag thing, and Paul shut it down because Paul was grumpy because his audio didn't work.
Yep.
So I was going to bring that up.
For some of you, you're welcome. And for some of you, I'm sorry. And what will be interesting is next week to see who all that's currently on this broadcast will actually make a return appearance.
It's true. We did.
Nick
we did violate the time restraint.
Well,
so
no, so far when we've had guests, we've gone long. But Nick's been sending me DMs about maybe taking over the co-host spot. So.
No, I would never do that to you, Spencer. I would never do that. It's drama, unnecessary drama being brought.
That's right.
Well,
we need to get the angry lady and the cat emoji now.
Well,
I don't know.
On that note,
just pretend that yes.
On that note, please subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Oh, do you need the thumbnail?
Yeah. What do you want to do? Oh, you want to do fives? High fives? Wait.
What? Oh God. This mirroring. There we go.
God, it's hard, isn't it? Wait. We're going that way. There we go. Yeah.
We got it. All right.
I like how it's blurring my hands automatically. So.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Watch.xrtalk.net, chat.xrtalk.net for Discord. You can follow all of us on our social medias at the handles below. Thanks, everyone. We keep having a building following, and it's great. And the chat is great. And I always point the wrong way.
I know I do too. It's backwards. That way.
Yeah. So thanks so much. Estella, thank you so much. You were an amazing guest last week, and now you've been an amazing audience member. So I hope you come back every week and bring more people. We're going to try to line up some more guests. I need to start booking them in advance so people know who's coming. But surprise, you got Nick Lambert today. You're welcome.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks,
you.
Nick.
All right. Till next week, maybe.